Hello, welcome to a live series event, Small Talks for Small Business. We are thrilled that you have joined us today. I am Miriam Savio, Senior Vice President for Products and Marketing at Altice USA, the parent company for Optimum and Suddenlink Business. At Optimum and Suddenlink Business, we are more than just your internet provider. We offer a wide range of services from advanced voice, data, to internet security solutions and entertainment to more than 400,000 businesses across 21 states in the US. We also offer mobile solutions nationwide through Altice Mobile. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities. And here at Optimum and Suddenlink Business, we strive to provide you with value-added services to all of our customers. Our Small Talks virtual series provides educational and informative topics of interest and benefit designed especially for our small business customers. In our first edition of How to Boost Your Sales Through Social Media, we covered defining your business brand, matching your goals to the appropriate social media platform, and giving an authentic voice to your business culture and values. In the second edition, we dig deeper into the basics of social media. And today, helping us do that, we have our friends from VML Y&R. VML Y&R is one of the world's leading full-service advertising and marketing agencies with 189 offices in 93 countries. I'm happy to introduce, returning with us today, Kyle Boots. As a Global Vice President, Kyle drives strategy for clients around the world. He has worked with several Fortune 500 companies, leveraging online data to shape communications, brand, and business strategy. Companies such as Target, ESPN, and Google, to name a few. Kyle has guest lectured at Syracuse University, Pace Business School, Brandeis Business School, and we're pleased to have him here today. One last note, the Q&A feature in your webinar is live. So if you have a question, please type in the dialog box and we'll try to answer as many as we can after the presentation. And now, here's Kyle. Hi, Kyle. Welcome back for part 2.
Hi, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Boots, Vice President of the BAV Group, which is the brand consulting division of VML Y&R, lots of acronyms. But I'm here today because we're going to talk a little bit about how to leverage social media to build your business. And it's really a powerful tool, not only to create a short-term impact on your bottom line, but actually to help build your brand, which will drive loyalty and actually keep people coming back and patronizing your business and using your services. So let's get started. Perfect. So, last time we spoke a little bit about leveraging social media for small business through the context of brand and business and culture. If you go to the next slide, today what we're going to talk about are a little bit more tactical. Channels, how should we be using specific platforms and where? Creative, what does the content actually look like on social media? And then finally, results, which is key, which is how do we measure whether this is actually creating an impact on your business? So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what we discussed last time, since it was a few weeks ago. If we go to the next slide, a brand is the vision or the driving force behind everything that an organization does. It's why your company was founded, it's why the employees show up, and it's why customers should care. So there's a lot of different elements to this definition of brand. The first is that you have to have a really good understanding and a really strong and authentic way to articulate your corporate values, your business values. What is it that really drove you to start your business, right? Why do employees really like working with you? And why do your customers keep coming back? Once you've established these values and the sort of reason why your company is different and meaningful to your customers, that'll actually provide a foundation for a lot of the business goal setting, but also inform how you're using specific social media channels. If we go to the next slide, your brand is really going to be defined by four key pillars. Is my brand different? Does it have unique meaning and energy, right? Why would someone go to my business instead of my competitors? Equally important to that notion of differentiation is the idea of relevance. Is it appropriate to me, the consumer? Is it meaningful to me? Do I care? We have esteem, which relates to how respected a brand is. And then finally, we have knowledge, which is a measure of the depth of understanding. And so when you think of these four brand pillars, think about building them in that order. First, you build a compelling point of differentiation. Second, you ensure that that point of differentiation is relevant and meaningful to people. Third, you make sure that you're driving respect through the things that you do. And then finally, we have to make sure that that's actually deepening the understanding that consumers have for your brand, but also your business. If we go to the next slide, there are specific channels that are going to help you accomplish specific business goals. So we learned last time that if you want to build brand awareness, if you simply want people to know who you are and what you're all about, and you want to reach the widest possible audience, Facebook is a really great place to go. You want to drive discoverability, which is more about what we call search engine optimization. So ensuring that people who are searching for, I don't know, a donut shop see your business listing as one of the first results on the Google page. That's what we call discoverability. And so obviously you're going to have to work with Google on that. And most people don't think of Google as an advertising platform necessarily, but you can pay for higher search results and you can pay for preferential placement in Google Maps. And both of those things will help you drive your business. If you want to develop your brand voice, your unique point of view on the world, Instagram and Twitter are great places to do that. You're going to have different KPIs or key performance indicators that are going to measure your success on each of these platforms. Instagram being a bit more visual, Twitter being a shorter form, and some of the posts have a shorter shelf life given the volume of tweets that we see in culture. And then finally, Twitter can actually help with some customer service and PR type announcements, which Instagram might not be the best channel for. On LinkedIn, if you're a B2B business, you can generate new sales leads. This is going to be your platform if you're a B2B business. But if you're not a B2B business and you're hiring, LinkedIn's also a great place to shine a light on your company culture, the fact that you're a great employer, and the fact that employees really like the company, because that'll help you build overall advocacy for your brand. If you have happy employees who are your sort of ambassadors to the world, that can only help in the long term. And LinkedIn is a great place to highlight that company culture. And then finally, if we want to increase brand awareness and knowledge and that depth of understanding that I was talking about, YouTube is a really great place for that. It's meant for longer form videos. And increasingly, what we're seeing is that small businesses are using YouTube to do product reviews and to demonstrate their overall expertise in their particular area. And so each of these platforms is going to serve a different purpose, it's going to have a different rationale, and it's going to have different measures of success. So if we go to the next slide, um, what I want to talk about today again is this idea of channel, creative, and results. So if we dive right into channel, I'm going to talk a little bit, if we go to the next slide, um, a little bit about how specific platforms have sort of native uses that we need to keep in mind. Different business goals need to be applied to each of these channels. And there might actually be a different cadence or frequency that you need to post on a given channel. So let's go to the next slide. So, at a high level, what this map shows is how consumers or people online talk about using specific social channels. And you'll see that we have a couple of different vectors here, right? So, you have more participatory platforms where people are really engaging a lot with the posts that they see. They're commenting, they're liking, they're reposting, they're sharing. Then there's others that are a bit more voyeuristic, right? It's a little bit more about that passive consumption. And so your social strategy is going to look different on these two types of channels. You also have channels that are more oriented toward people who they already know. So, what's called a sort of filter bubble, if you will. So, Facebook, for example, is primarily, my feed is dominated by friends and family. And that's kind of how I get my information from Facebook. Whereas Twitter, I might be following influencers, prominent, I don't know, celebrities, news publications, etc., that, are a little bit more outward directed, a little bit more influencer focused, and perhaps reflective of who I want to know. So Instagram and TikTok are very participatory and oriented toward that discovery, right? So these are great places for you to actually gain a following. Snapchat and Facebook, a little bit more oriented toward who I currently know, that might be a little bit harder for brands to break away from the noise and really get through to the people that matter most. And so, paid social media or advertising within these channels, which we'll talk about briefly in a minute, is something that you're going to have to rely on with a channel like Facebook to really cut through the noise and make sure that you're getting the right eyeballs on your content. Reddit, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube, these are all consumption oriented. So you don't have to worry as much if you're not getting many likes or comments on your posts, provided that you're getting visibility. And we're going to unpack each of the different roles that these social networks play in the next couple of slides. So if we go to the next one. So, for those of you who attended last time, I used a rather strange metaphor, but I think it illustrates the point well about donuts. So, each of these specific channels is built for a different type of communication. And so, in addition to thinking about business objectives, we need to think about what these platforms are actually good at doing and accomplishing, right? So if I wanted to tell the world I'm eating a donut right now, I would probably use Twitter. It's text and link focused, it's short form, and it's real time in terms of the updates, right? So Twitter is a great place for shorter term content that's more text or link focused. If I wanted to tell the world what I thought about donuts, I might actually use Facebook because it's a little bit more longer form, more connections oriented. So, people who are friends with me might share this content with people that they follow, etc. And it is an all in one platform. So, what you do see is a lot of people use it as their event calendar, or a lot of people use it to get news. And so, Facebook is a really great place to put some of that longer form content that's going to really highlight your business expertise. If I wanted to post a picture of myself eating a donut, I would use Instagram. It's a visual medium. The posts need to be aesthetically pleasing, but they can also be location based, similar to Twitter. And so these are great tools to encourage your customers, not just you, but your customers to actually tag photos of themselves patronizing your business, and that's a great way to get some additional visibility, user generated visibility. If I wanted to put a review of a donut or talk about how I eat donuts, I might actually film a video and upload that to YouTube. YouTube is great, as I mentioned, for product reviews. A lot of small businesses are using YouTube to really demonstrate their expertise in a particular area. So, to use a small anecdote, I was thinking about buying a bicycle the other day, and I went to look at a couple of the bike shops in my neighborhood. And I was amazed by how robust their social media presence was. I mean, we're talking businesses with two people. And yet, they took the time to film product reviews and post them on YouTube. And what that tells me as a customer is not only does this business know what they're talking about, they're being honest about the products that they sell, and they really understand their audience. They understand what my needs are and the different pros and cons that I'm weighing. Maybe for me, it's not just about price, it's about the speed, or it's about the size, or it's about the safety record. And so by thinking through some of your customer concerns, filming a video, posting it on YouTube, you're creating and reinforcing a reputation for your brand that'll help to drive people to your business and keep coming back. If you wanted to have a debate about donuts, Reddit is a great place for that. Twitter too, but Twitter's a little bit more public. Reddit is a really great place also to gain insight into your audience. So I would recommend everyone go onto Reddit, look in some of the threads or subreddits that are really key to your industry or your business category, and look at how people are discussing key matters as it relates to your industry, because that's going to give you a whole lot of clues about the points that you need to hit and the priorities that your customers, whether they're in a B2B context or a consumer context, what really matters to people. Finally, if I wanted to brag about how my skills included donut eating, I might put that on LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn is a unique platform in that it has very different purposes if you are a B2B business or if you're a consumer facing business. So, if you're a consumer facing business, it's important still to have a LinkedIn page. It shows that you're a legitimate business, and it shows, when you're hiring, for example, that, you have a really good company culture and values, and this is a really great place to work. On the other hand, if you were a B2B business, this can be used for lead generation. So you can identify specific, leads or business opportunities based on the type of content that people share. If they are posting a lot of thought leadership about a particular topic, then you know that that topic really matters a lot to this person. So when you're a B2B business and you're thinking about posting on LinkedIn, it's really about demonstrating your expertise. So if you're a small law firm, you must have legal opinions about what's going on in the world. You may have, be reading up on interesting industry trends that your clients are going to find interesting. And that's the place where you can share that information and really reinforce your reputation as a business. So again, each of these channels has different business objectives, and you might need to actually post differently in terms of the frequency on each of these channels. So the top row, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're going to need to post more often. I would recommend starting out that you think about posting 2 to 3 times a week, ideally more. But make sure that if you're posting in a way that's actually substantive, that you have something really meaningful to say. I think that there's a time and a place for fun, sort of smaller comments, but it's not a great use of time, I would say, to focus on content that's going to drive short term engagements or likes or clicks or shares. Think about your brand and your business objectives, and then think about creating content that supports that. Because if you can really focus on that consistency in those 2 to 3 posts a week, people will really understand what they're getting from your brand and your business proposition. And that'll be easier for them to identify you as a place that they want to continue to patronize. The bottom row does not need to be updated as often. So YouTube can be updated, once a month or once every other, week, depending on the frequency and the nature of the content that you're posting on YouTube. And LinkedIn, I would say, if you're a B2B business, you probably should be focusing on posting either every other day or at least two times a week. So there's a different frequency that's required for each of these channels. And you have to think about what each of these platforms is really good at accomplishing, in addition to the business objective that you want to accomplish with that particular platform. If we go to the next slide, big brands execute differently across channels. So you can see that there's one campaign here and it has a very different look and feel. It's obviously united by the same visual identity, but it does have a different layout across different devices and across different platforms. So you won't necessarily have the big budget that Heineken does, but you can think about creating content that will is optimized for the specific channel that you want to post it on. So Instagram, we know that that is a square format, cannot be clicked within posts. So it doesn't really make sense to include in the comment or the caption for your Instagram post any sort of link. So there's certain realities about each of these platforms that you need to keep in mind as you're developing content. Because something that works on Twitter won't necessarily work on Facebook. So again, start with your brand and your business values, then think about content, and then think about tweaking that content for the specific channels that you want to leverage. And we'll talk a little bit today about how to do that. Go to the next slide. So before I move on, I do want to talk about organic social media and paid social media. Organic social media is any content that you push out on your social channels that you manage for free. And that's going to be limited. The visibility of these posts is going to be limited to the people who follow you. And ideally, you put together some great content that gets shared by your followers. Their followers see that and it trickles outward. But that doesn't always happen, particularly when you're first starting out. So it is important to think about paid social media. These are sponsored posts or digital ads that you actually pay for. And what's amazing about this is that you can actually target a very, very specific audience based on demographic information, based on emails if you have that, based on affinities or what's called interests in the online space. And what you'll notice is that all of the paid social media examples that we see say sponsored underneath. So they don't have a date attached to them like an organic post would. They say sponsored. And this is where you see e commerce enabled content, right? So Facebook and Instagram have templates that you can use, such as this that you see here, this carousel, where I can actually just swipe through and look at all of the different products and actually click on one and buy it from the website. You can also post articles or images. What I would recommend is that you use less text than the secret NYC because you want to be catchy. You want to make sure that you are capturing people's attention and not giving them, 15 paragraphs to read. You want to make it really easy for them to engage with this post. So there's paid social media and there's organic social media, and paid social media will generate more visibility, but it costs money. So if you go to the next slide, I do want to emphasize the importance of considering to dabble in some paid social media. There are more people online than ever before, but it's getting harder and harder to stand out. So when we look at, and this is in large part due to changes in the back end that Facebook and Instagram made, they actually have made organic content, so the content that you or I post on our social channels, less visible to the wide possible audience. So really, you need to pay to play these days. Without paid support, only 1% or about 1% of your fans will actually see your content. But you can actually get a lot of traction out of a small investment of $10 to $40. And it's really valuable to do that because you can ensure through paid social media that you're getting a higher return on your investment. With organic social content, you don't really know what's working and what's not working unless you actually see people coming to your website, coming into your store, coming into your business, whatever that may be. Because business is really the ultimate KPI. But with paid social media, you can get a glimpse into how people are engaging with your ads, how long they spend, what they look like, what their demographic information is, and then what other types of content they engage with online. And that'll give you a whole lot of intelligence that you can use to optimize your content and make sure that your marketing becomes more and more effective. If we go to the next slide, I want to give you an example of the types of things that you can actually filter by. So, audience tailored content is going to be key if you use paid social media. So, maybe not everyone on this conference has heard of Zoom, or excuse me, Noom. But everyone probably has heard of Weight Watchers, right? Weight Watchers is a behemoth, and Noom is a relatively small startup that is a fitness and health tracking app that ostensibly competes with the juggernaut, Weight Watchers that we all know. So how do they stand out? Not only facing off against a large corporate multinational brand, but also how do they cut through the noise on social media? What they did is they identified a niche for themselves. So they saw that Weight Watchers was more focused on the health benefits of diet and exercise, and then the community aspect of it, right? The Tuesday night support groups, providing some empathy and support for people who are, struggling to change their weight or their health. Noom focuses on the activity and the competitiveness. So similar to a CrossFit, where you're competing against yourself, but you're also competing against others in your same class. Some people like that. That kind of mortifies me. But it really worked for Noom, and they saw this niche audience that was really, really focused on activity and competition. And so they further narrowed down their audience to key demographics, locations where they saw a huge deal of growth potential, Affinities, which again are interests that are other brands, other topics that specific people are engaging with on Facebook and Instagram. That's something you can filter by when you're creating your paid social post. CRM lists. So if you have an email list of all of your existing customers, you can actually serve them an ad. Your followers will see this content, and then you can also create lookalike audiences or actually clone audiences. So once you've created a list of demographics, location based filters and affinities, you can say, well, I want people who look like this who aren't necessarily in New York or who aren't necessarily currently in the market for beauty supplies or whatever that your industry is. So there's a lot that you can actually use to target. And what we see with Noom is that when they started producing more targeted content, they saw a 5-time increase in app downloads, which is the primary interface that people use in order to access Noom services. So audience tailored content is key. If we move to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about creative. So once we've identified our business goals, our what our brand values are, and how we actually want to leverage a particular platform in order to spread that message, the big question is, what does this post look like, right? We go to the next slide. I wanted to put together some pointers based on clients that we've worked with. Goldfish is a client that we work with, and I love their social content. I think it's super, super fun. It's innovative. It's creative. It's done on a very low budget, and what's amazing about this is that the stop motion videos really reinforce three central truths about the brand. Goldfish is about fun, it's about creativity, and it's about family. And so, even though we're looking at 15 different posts here, you can see that there's a consistent look and feel that reinforces a specific brand voice. And so, it's going to be important for you to identify not only what your posts look like, but what's the tone and the message that you want to, spread around, right? We keep going to the next slide. Another way that you can do this is by looking outside of your brand or category for inspiration. So here are two examples, probably medium-sized businesses, but Heyday has 5 locations in New York. It is a spa and beauty service brand that operates a little bit like Uber. So you can kind of book an appointment like you would with Uber, and they can either come to your house or you can go to a specific location. Away, pretty famous luggage brand. It's a startup that really taps into the cultural landscape beyond the products, right? So Away sells suitcases, but what are they really getting at with the posts that we see here? They're tapping into the romance of travel, which I certainly miss, given our current environment. So looking at Away's, social media posts, you do see some product content, right? You definitely see suitcases and luggage and bags, either in the corner or front and center of the photo. But you don't see that in every single photo. Sometimes you see these breathtaking images of, I don't know, a village on the side of a mountain in Greece. And it makes you think, wow, I really want to be traveling. I want to be buying into this lifestyle that comes with an Away suitcase. And you see the same thing with Heyday. They're highlighting beauty tips and tricks, not necessarily things that they sell. And so you can use culture to bring your brand to life. You don't need to only focus on the products that you sell or the services that you're offering. Think about the ultimate end goal. So if someone is buying a suitcase, what are they really excited about? Are they excited about the suitcase or are they excited about the travel? And so you can tap into that passion by really focusing in on the culture and the sort of cultural context surrounding your brand. If we go to the next slide, another way that you can, capture people's attention is by being unexpected. So we have two very strange examples here. Definitely won't work for everyone. But Squatty Potty is let's say it's a bathroom accessory. It's pretty obvious what it does. Rather than focus on the functional product claims or talk about, I don't know, digestive health benefits, what Squatty Potty did is they decided to film a unicorn that excretes rainbows. And this is weird and kind of gross, but it generated so much engagement. And I have to say, Squatty Potty, 23 employees, fairly big, I suppose, by small business standards, but they did not have a ton of money. They started off with that $50 investment that I mentioned, and they really invested in something that would capture people's attention that was unexpected. And I have to say, every time I've been to Facebook, where we talk about the most effective ads and paid social media strategies that Facebook has observed, they always mention the Squatty Potty post. So it can happen. And even with a $50 investment, you can ultimately end up becoming, a hit sensation. Casper does this a little bit more in a sort of office appropriate way, where they have two koalas who are having a romantic dinner in bed. And so again, this here's an example like Heyday, like Away, where Casper is a mattress company, but they're not really talking about mattresses. They're talking about a lifestyle that comes along with those mattresses, right? They're talking about the lazy Sundays where you sleep in, where you spend time with your loved one. And so by tapping into the culture surrounding their brand and infusing that with a little bit of an unexpected execution, they what they've done is they've generated a really eye-catching and unique ad that'll help them drive differentiation, but also higher pricing power and tangible concrete business metrics. If we go to the next slide, another thing that you can do actually doesn't even occur necessarily online, but it lives in both online and offline. So delivering a unique experience. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of the Steakhouse Nurset. It is a Turkish steakhouse, I believe, that is famous for having this guy who will come up to your table, take a machete, and chop up your steak, and then actually drizzle salt, kind of like this, in this, in that fashion. And he is known as the Salt Bay. So he started a hashtag and really encouraged people in the restaurant to take pictures with him and really kind of make this a unique experience so that when you are sitting down at this restaurant, you cannot wait for your photo op where he's going to trickle salt down his arm and chop up the steak, etc. And it's really a unique experience, right? And what's key is that he created a hashtag. So by creating a hashtag, what he did is he allowed a lot of people to actually create their own content. So customers are actually coming in, taking photos in front of the mural, taking photos with, Salt Bay himself, and then posting that. And that's free advertising for you. So by coming up with a unique experience and encouraging your customers to share that content, you can actually increase the overall visibility for not only your content, your social media content, but your brand and your business as well. If you go to the next slide, another way is to create a two-way dialogue. So, another example is exactly what we're doing right now, right? But by encouraging and facilitating a two-way dialogue between you and your customers, what you're doing is you're really reinforcing your reputation as an expert, and you're making your website, your social media page, a destination. Another brand that does this incredibly well is American Express. So, American Express had a brand challenge many years ago that a lot of small businesses couldn't afford to pay the really high processing fees. And so Amex faced a challenge. They needed more small businesses to accept American Express payments. And so, how to go about doing that? What they did is they created an open forum, which is a website that has articles, blogs, tips, advice, Q and A's, all around planning for growth as a small business, how to gain customers, how to manage your money, how to build a team, etc. And so, by creating all of this content that helps small businesses, drive their business and really empowers their customers, they've reinforced that they are worthy, that high processing fee is actually worth the price because what you're getting is an expert in this area. So Amex really was able to gain small business customers, but also reinforce its reputation as an expert on business. And what you can see is that they have 61% positive sentiment, which is very, very high for a brand. So when it works, it works. And you can do this at a much smaller scale with your business by creating a two-way dialogue. So certain channels are going to be really important for you to actually not just push out content, that'll be liked and shared, hopefully, but actually comment and on other people's posts and reply to comments that are left on your posts. So engagement and dialogue is a huge way for you to gain followers. If you go to the next slide, you can finally win with consistency. And so it's really, really important when you're thinking about producing content that's going to drive people to your brand, your business, and really help clarify what you have to offer to the world. Do you want your feed to look like Applebee's, which looks like a, I don't know, like a collage of coupons? Or do you want to sort of reinforce a consistent standard of excellence, which is what Panera Bread did, right? The posts are different, but the look and feel is the same. There's a consistent color scheme, there's an aesthetic, there's a style, there's a voice. It's overall much more cohesive. And that tells me as a consumer that you actually care about the values that you claim to care about, because it's reinforced consistently by the way that you actually execute your content. And so last time, one of the things that we mentioned was not changing too much about your social strategy all at once. If you decide that one day you're going to be posting articles about industry trends, and on the next day you're going to be posting cute pictures of cats, you're not really sending a consistent message to consumers, right? So slow and gradual change is key with social media, which is a good thing because it actually allows us to learn and refine our approach. We don't have to do it all in one night. So if we move on to the next slide, I want to talk finally about results. So measuring results is key because it helps us understand the content that's working and content that maybe has an opportunity to be refangled or tweaked or adjusted to meet our specific business objectives. So if we go to the next slide, there are three things that are going to be important for you to do before you are able to measure the impact of your social media. So it's really important to switch to a business account, a Facebook business account, a Twitter business account, an Instagram business account, not a personal account. So a personal account is going to be what you or I might use to share content with friends and family. It doesn't really give you a whole lot of insight into what's working, how many people are actually clicking on your posts, how long they spend on your page, whether they're actually being driven to your website or whether they just kind of scroll and then keep going. A business account allows you to track all of that. So if you have a business account set up, what you're able to do is track conversions to your website. You're able to look at the demographics of people who engage with your posts. And it's just going to give you a more nuanced understanding of what's working and what's not working. So, key, switch to a business account. The next is that you can set up what's called a Facebook pixel, which is a tracking cookie. So, if you've ever wondered why, I don't know, when you sign into Google once, you don't have to sign in every single time you open the page, or maybe you sign into, I don't know, whatever news publication of choice. You sign in because you're a subscriber, and then you don't need to do that for the rest of the day or the next couple of days. The reason why your browser remembers that you actually signed into those accounts is a tracking cookie, which is this very similar technology to a pixel. What a pixel allows you to do is actually track someone who engaged with a paid social media post that you've put out there, and then it'll actually follow them for a little bit. So it'll look at what other content are they surfing on the web, or what other ads or interests or affinities do they engage with, and that will give you a richer and more nuanced understanding of your audience. And then finally, survey your audience. I mean, even without a pixel or a business account, you can go on to Reddit and just read a little bit about your industry. What are people saying about, small businesses in your category? What are customers saying? What are the customer service complaints that you see for big brands that you compete with? And can you learn from that? Obviously, another really key thing is going to be which channel works. And so, the business accounts, the pixels are going to be giving you a pretty good sense of how long people are spending on your posts and which generates the most visibility, right? But you can also just ask your customers. So when they come into a store, when they come into your business, you can do this by email too. You can even do this on your website, where you can ask people, how did you find out about us? That's going to help you assess where to focus your energies. If 90% of your store visits are coming from your Instagram account, you probably can focus on that Instagram account and not really worry too much about some of the other channels. So these are real three key things to think about as you're creating an infrastructure that will allow you to really measure impact. We go to the next slide. So I wanted to show you three examples of small businesses kind of near me, and talk a little bit about website. So tracking visitors to your website is wholeheartedly within your control, and it's a really useful way to identify not only where leads are coming from, but whether your website content is clean, whether the consumer experience on the website is the most optimal and true to the shopping or business experience that you want your customers and your clients to be seeing. Um, every website pretty much comes with free access to Google Analytics, and along with that, you'll get many metrics. But here are four of the key metrics that you can get. You'll get monthly visitors, unique visitors, which are individual people, not repeat visits, right? Visits per unique visitor. So, how many times are people coming back to your website? And then finally, the average time spent on site. So, I might look at Joe's Pizza with 25,000 monthly visitors and say, wow, I really want to be like them. But actually, Bocce Club Pizza has a better profile overall. So they have 14,000 monthly visitors, about 5,000 unique visitors. But look at the unique visits, the actual number of visits per unique visitor. And you see that people are going two times roughly to Joe's Pizza, but they're going three times to Bocce Club Pizza, and they're spending more time on the website. So what that tells me is that Bocce may not have the sort of sheer number of fans or following as Joe's Pizza, but what their community or their fan community has is much deeper engagement with the Bocce Club Pizza brand. And so you have to think about the depth of engagement, not just the overall number of likes or website visits that you're getting. If we go to the next slide. Finally, are you making an impression in real life? This may be harder in the current environment that we're in with COVID, but are you making an impression in real life? You have to speak to your customers and ask them why they came in, and ask them what they liked about their experience, and is there anything different that you could do? And by listening to those sort of unprompted answers, by kind of putting people nicely on the spot, what you can really accomplish is a great deal of business intelligence that'll help you refine your social media strategy and create more nuance in the content that you're posting moving forward. So if we go to the next slide, just in summation, there's some three key takeaways before we get into questions. So the first is build your brand story. So it starts with brand. I know that brand may seem like a sort of fluffy or not tangible concern, but your brand is going to be the key and primary driver of loyalty. And if you think about that, that reflects hopefully the way that you're a consumer, right? So why do you go to the stores that you go to? Sure, prices or promotions or convenience may be factors, but ultimately it's because you've had good experiences there in the past, and that brand name means something to you. It stands for a consistent standard of excellence. And so when we think about building our brand stories, first you have to think about how to define your voice, right? So what matters to me as a company and what matters to my audience might define what I'm saying, but how you say it needs to come from you. It needs to come from the way that you do business. I mean, you created your business for a reason, and so your voice should be authentic to that. It should be authentic to the business practices, not just an aspirational voice that you think sounds good. It's only going to work if it's authentic and it's true to your business objectives. The second thing is think bigger than your products. So a lot of brands, I would say, fail to cut through the noise by really focusing myopically on their products, the product offering, their services. You have to think more broadly about that. So think about the end goal for consumers. It's not about that suitcase. It's about what the suitcase allows you to do, travel the world. If you identify content that resonates with your audiences and actually fits into the broader dynamics of culture, you're going to have a much easier time communicating your unique brand proposition and your company values. And then finally, capture people's attention. So it doesn't have to be a unicorn. It can be any number of things. But look at what's out there. Look at what your competitors are doing, and then think: Is there a way that I could accomplish the same thing using a voice that's authentic to me? If you're playful, be playful. If you're serious, be serious. But capture people's attention by thinking outside the box and deviating slightly from category norms, because there's really no reason why all law firms, all pizza places need to behave the same. Second, in order to reach your audience, you do have to pay to play. But remember that even a small investment can elicit a huge impact. And it allows you to really target and hone in on your content in ways that organic social media does not. So it'll allow you to target content based on your audience, demographics, the location, and then their interests or affinities. And then identify your social sweet spot. The time of day, the number of posts that you're creating, and the platform that you choose are ultimately going to be tied to your audience's behaviors and your behaviors as a business. So once you identify that sweet spot, it's a matter of trial and error. Finally, in order to do that trial and error, you have to be able to measure impact. So define KPIs, or key performance indicators, that actually matter. Your business is a KPI that matters. Likes are not a KPI that matters. Likes might tell you directionally, oh, this content was pretty popular, whatever, but that doesn't mean that someone's going to go in and actually buy something from you. So, building your brand equity through consistent storytelling will give you more insight into whether people are actually coming back and why they're coming back. Those are your KPIs that actually matter. And then finally, we have to think about the long term. So, short term content strategy will give you short term results. You have to think about your goals and, what can something that you post today actually help you work toward? So, to use a sort of larger enterprise example, has anyone heard of the ALS Foundation? They're responsible for the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was a viral campaign a couple years ago. They encourage people to dump a bucket of ice water on them to simulate the symptoms, or the feeling of living with Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. So that was a huge viral success, and I often hear from a lot of clients, what is my ice bucket challenge? The problem with the ice bucket challenge is that it was very short term. The impact was very short term. So rather than focus on building a sustainable brand platform and really kind of capitalizing on that momentum, what they did was they essentially stopped after the ice bucket challenge. So their donations were around $25 million in unrestricted donations a year. That quadrupled to $100 million in donations the year of the Ice Bucket Challenge. And then the next year, it went back down to normal levels between 25 and 30 million, where it stayed for the last several years. So, I would certainly take that $5 million increase. That's a lot of money. But at that scale, what we learned from that is that that was a great one off campaign, but it did not really do much to engender long term advocacy for the ALS Foundation brand. So it's important to think about the long term and not get too caught up in the short term successes. Make sure that you're really capturing the momentum and really building on something. It may be annoying to be posting as often as I'm recommending that you do, but it's really key because it shows your customers that you care about them, and it gives people a more human and relatable way to engage with your brand outside of the particular moment of the purchase. With that, I think we can transition into some questions. Let me see. Okay, so we have a few questions coming in. I'm just going to read some of these off and give you some answers. Um, do we need to be using all platforms at once? No. It is probably better for you to commit to one or two platforms and do them incredibly well than to have eight social media accounts that are only updated once a week. So I would recommend thinking about what makes your brand and your business different and meaningful. And then think about your business objectives and your audience, and this will help you choose the right platform. And just be okay with the fact that you're going to start small, and don't be discouraged by the lack of engagement when you start, because it takes time to build up that momentum. Okay, a lot of questions. How do I get more followers once I start a social media business account? Okay, this is a great question. So the best way to gain followers is by engaging people. This is true for whether you're a consumer facing brand or whether you're a B2B brand. Respond to comments that you receive. Thank people for commenting. Ask follow up questions. Follow other brands and people that are relevant to your brand, and then like or comment or retweet their posts, because the more you engage, the more visible your content is going to be. Um, there are lots of different ways that you could do this. So you could maybe offer a discount to anyone who tags your business in a post. I will say there's one little anecdote that I'll share because I see that we're running out of time. There is a local cheese shop in my neighborhood that does this incredibly well. I once posted a kind of lame Instagram post asking the cheese shop to marry me. And to my surprise, the cheese shop actually responded with a cheese pun. They said, "That's sweet, but I camembert, haha," all this attention. And we kind of lobbed cheese puns back and forth. And the exchange actually got a lot of attention. I mean, people were liking my comments and their comments. And, I don't know if they gained followers because of that particular exchange. But what I can tell you is that I would never buy my cheese from another shop, because it's such a human centric way to engage with your customers. They had a personality, they had knowledge about what they were selling. And to me, that's a greater sign of success, is to actually convince someone who might be an occasional user for your brand to become a regular user, a regular customer for your brand. And that's a great opportunity to leverage social. I think we are out of time, unfortunately, but this was really, really great, and some really great questions that I see here, and looking forward to the next discussion. Thank you very much.